Happy Friday, happy holidays. Welcome to another episode of Evoke Strong Live, Featured Friday Conversations. If this is your first time, thanks for joining us. I'm Elaine and the host, and I started the show about a few months ago because I wanted to feature the stories of these incredible women and their health transformation that they went through because they made some lifestyle changes. And it's my hope that by sharing these stories that you'll be inspired to take action to improve your health. So my guest today is, before I introduce her, I would like to go ahead and spend a few minutes to share this video or share this live onto my personal page. And if you are watching this right now or during the replay, I would love for you to share it as well. We're going to talk about a lot of good information about autoimmune conditions, and Daphne is also a holistic health practitioner, so we're going to be covering a lot of interesting things today. So let me just go ahead and do that. It'll just take me 1 second. I'll share it real quick. And I'll bring her in. And if you're viewing this right now, if you're on live with us, I would love for you to say hello, and feel free to ask questions. You're just as part of this conversation as we are, and that's the beauty of being on a live show, is because you get to interact with us. So I want you to go ahead and do that. And without further delay, I'm going to bring in my guest. And this is Daphne Wiswell. Daphne, we can see you now. All right, let me just read her bio real quick. Daphne Wiswell was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and Hashimoto's disease when she was 26 years old. She diligently followed her doctor's instructions and relied on multiple heavy medications as treatment, or steroids, immunosuppressants, low-dose chemotherapy, and the list is long. We'll probably talk more about that. And the treatments that were meant to help really only added more hurt. She struggled with excruciating pain, debilitating fatigue, and recurring infections and illnesses for several years before deciding it was time to figure out a better way. And today, at almost 40 years of age, she is both medication and symptom-free, and has been for 6 years, which is amazing, because she was initially told to be prepared for double knee replacements by age 40. It's kind of scary. Every day that she wakes up free of pain and full of energy feels like a new miracle. Daphne is a holistic health practitioner, and she is passionate about her holistic health coaching practice. She teaches and encourages clients to hear and trust what their bodies say to them about food, sleep, relationships, and stress, and guides them into actionable steps that lead to sustaining a healthier, happier, more energetic lifestyle. I'm sorry, feels like I'm losing my voice. Daphne is married to her high school sweetheart. That's amazing. And together they have 3 children, 1 in college and 2 in high school, and she's been homeschooling for 15 years. Awesome. She loves cooking, reading, writing, hiking, and spending lots of time with friends and family. So, welcome to the show, Daphne. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Elaine. It's my pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate your invitation. I'm excited about today.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into your story.
Sure.
I always like to go do kind of like a flashback. So I know we mentioned on your bio that at 26 you were diagnosed with RA and Hashimoto's. So I want to go maybe like a year or two beforehand and kind of like just talk about like what your life was like, and maybe if you were already feeling symptoms and you just didn't know about it, or just weren't really, thinking that was what you were feeling.
Okay. No, when the RA came on, it came on for that disease. Once it hits, you know it, and it doesn't take long for you to figure out what to do. But a couple of years before that, and what my doctors believed might have triggered it, because a lot of people know and some don't, that autoimmune disease carries a genetic marker, but things trigger that gene that flips on autoimmune disease, and it can be stress or trauma or a food sensitivity that you're not aware of or whatever. And so I had 3 by that point, but 2 in my 20s. I was 23 with one and 25 with the last one, and so it may have been the burst, but it could have also been the severe depression that I was dealing with when I was 25 years old that kind of triggered that into emotion. And so just a couple of years before I was diagnosed, I was taking care of 3 small home with them and all of the things that go along with that. If there are any moms watching, just being a stay-at-home mom is not nothing. That's a stressful job, especially when the kids are all, age 5 and under. My husband was working offshore and out of town. He's in the oil industry. And so it was just me and the kids. And there was a lot of stress. And then couple that with depression and anxiety. And I had a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to being a stay-at-home mom and having a husband that's gone because my husband's in the military. So yeah, I can definitely relate to like the stress factor that's added into
right.
that. So so I guess we can talk about like what RA is and what Hashimoto's is because I guess not a lot of people are really familiar with it. So if you wanted to go ahead and talk about what it is and how someone would get it. I know you said it's triggered by you might have been triggered by stress, or there's other factors that may trigger it.
Yeah, sure. So RA is rheumatoid arthritis, and it's an autoimmune disease that affects your joints. And typically with rheumatoid arthritis, it'll affect the same joint on both sides of your body. So both of my hands were hurting, both of my feet, toes, ankles were hurting, both of my shoulders, both of my hips, both of my knees. All those joints were affected. And it's a very aggressive disease. So when it starts, you know it because, my dad had rheumatoid arthritis. And so I kind of knew what the symptoms were from watching him. He was diagnosed in his early 30s and I was a teenager at that point. So I knew what it looked like, and he's been dealing with it all these years. So I knew that it was joint pain. I knew that it was fatigue. I knew that it was stiffness and redness and all of those kinds of things. But I was only 26. And so when I started waking up with being able to open a water bottle and not being able to put my daughter's hair in a rubber band for a ponytail, and I couldn't tie the kids' shoes, and I just for me to figure out that I needed to get in to see a specialist and do something about it, because I saw how quickly and severely my dad's disease progressed. And so I wanted to get in front of that and try and do everything I could to slow it down, because that's what the immunosuppressants are designed to do, is to slow down the of the disease so that you don't end up having to have the knee replacements or the hip replacements, and your fingers don't end up. If you've ever seen anyone walking around with really just really disformed hands, that person probably has arthritis. That's what it looks like.
Right. My mom is actually she's watching right now, and she says that you are too young to have RA. Yeah.
Oh, my daughter was diagnosed with a juvenile form of arthritis when she was only 10 years old, and I know some children have been diagnosed as young as 2. So it's a very common myth that arthritis is a disease for older people.
Oh, that's interesting. Like I guess I never knew that as well. So that's new information to me. And so
I'm glad to bring awareness to that.
Yeah, definitely. So is it so like you said, it's genetic, and then it's other than just genetics, is it caused by anything else, and that you know of? They
don't really know what causes it, just like any autoimmune disease. Right. So rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, fibromyalgia, cancer, all of those are autoimmune diseases, and they're still working to figure out what it is that causes all of them. And science has really come a long way, but they still don't know.
Right. Okay. So you went to the doctor and you got diagnosed with RA, and then 6 months later you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Can you explain what Hashimoto's is?
Yeah, so Hashimoto's is another form of autoimmune disease, and it affects the thyroid. And so and a lot of times people who have one autoimmune disease will often develop another one, just have multiples. most of the people that I know with one autoimmune disease have more than one, which is terrible. But that's just kind of how the body works.
Right.
Or it's not supposed to, but that's what happens. So Hashimoto's is a body thinks that your thyroid is a foreign object and just begins to attack it so that it's not producing the correct amount of hormone and it's just not functioning properly. And a lot of people don't realize that the thyroid is really responsible for a lot of different functions in our body. And so if it's not functioning properly, you can have really, really severe fatigue, problems maintaining a healthy weight. People who have hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism kind of can relate to that, but Hashimoto's is a whole other level, because then it involves your adrenal glands, and you can deal with adrenal fatigue and hair loss and just all kinds of really frustrating symptoms.
Yeah, so did you get tested for it? That's how you found out, or?
Yeah, so there's a blood test that you can take or that you can have done that will test for specific antibodies.
Okay.
And if those antibodies come back at a certain level, then they know that it's an autoimmune form of thyroid disease. And so there's Graves' disease, which is another form. I got those lab results back. I'll never forget it. I had all 3 kids in the doctor's office with me because I was trying to figure out why I was so tired, why I couldn't function, why just going to the grocery store would wipe me out literally, I'd go to the groceries. I had all 3 kids with me, right? They're little bitty, 2 baskets. Oh my gosh, just the memories. And and I would get home, and the only thing I had the energy to do was get the kids inside, put all the cold stuff up, and then straight to the couch. Like, I didn't even put up, I was buying canned goods and bread. All that stayed in the bags on the counters. And so when I went into the doctor, because they had all said, fatigue goes along with rheumatoid arthritis. It's a very common symptom. It's the second most complained thing about after the debilitating pain. So that's probably what's going on. Well, when I sat in my doctor's office that day, she looked at the numbers. She hadn't reviewed my chart, I guess, before I came and sat in front of her. And she looked at me and she said, "Did you drive yourself here?" And I was like, yeah. And I had the 3, I had the kids with me, and 2 of them were sitting on my lap. She said, and these are your kids, and they're with you, like, you're responsible for them right now? And I was like, yeah. And she said, you should be in a coma. You shouldn't be sitting here. You shouldn't be driving with these levels. You should be in a coma right now. I don't know how you're doing this. I don't know how you're functioning.
Right. That's kind of like a scary thing to say. I was like, really?
It was terrible. I was like, should I have somebody come pick me up? Do I need to go to the hospital?
Right.
What are you telling me right now? It was very scary.
So now so after a diagnosis, and then it's like we mentioned on, like I talked about in your bio. So you went through years of medications, right? And then and then you were kind of like, was it making you feel better, worse, the same, or?
I was on pain medications, and I was on steroids, and I was along with the immunosuppressants and the thyroid medicine, of course. And so my fatigue never really went away, and the pain wasn't as severe, but it wasn't like, hey, I feel like a normal 26-year-old. I still had a really hard time moving around and doing normal things that other people my age were doing.
Right.
My husband would take the kids for a bike ride, and there was no way I was going for a bike ride because my knees just couldn't take it. And, going things that we enjoy doing now, like I put in my bio hiking, because it's so miraculous to me that I can go and hike and do all of those things with no pain, and it doesn't wipe me out. So it got a little better, but it still wasn't the quality of life that I knew that I should have been experiencing.
Right. So you decided that you wanted to make yourself feel better, and I guess you started doing your own research. At what age were you? You said, so it's like probably several years, maybe were you in your 30s already, or?
Yeah, so the turning point for me, and I haven't really talked about this a lot, but when I was getting ready to talk to you today, I thought I need to talk about this because it was stressful, but it was my turning point, and I was 31 years old, and we very suddenly and tragically lost my mother-in-law, and it was really strange. It wasn't like a car accident, like happened with her health that was just no one saw it coming, and she passed away a month later. And that was the turning point for me, because she had had some struggles with cancer, overcome them, and was doing wonderful. And so it wasn't that, but she had always been so active. She exercised. She cooked all her meals at home. She ate fairly well. She wasn't doing all the organics and non-GMOs and things that a lot of us talk about now, but she cooked, meals for herself, and was very aware of rest and balance and all of the things that I talk to people about now.
Right.
But that still happened to her.
Yeah.
And so I thought, something's missing, and I need to figure out what it is, because she was only 66 years old. She was very young, and we were, 31, so it was very young for us to lose a parent. And I just didn't want that to happen to my kids. I just didn't want to not be graduate from high school, or whatever. Point for me to say, okay, if she's really been paying attention to her health and this still happened to her, then I need to figure out what to do. Right.
So what was your approach? What was your strategy of figuring it out? Were you listening to a podcast, or were you reading a particular book or a blog or anything that led you to what you're doing now with your, with health, and with even like leading to your practice that you have now?
Yeah. Well, I hope it's okay for me to be totally honest.
Okay, yeah.
My beginning strategy was prayer.
Oh,
I prayed because I didn't know what to do. And I just really believe that God wants to help us in anything. And so I would spend time praying about it and asking Him for direction and solutions. And then someone would mention a book, something at the library, or someone would call me and say, hey, I heard about this thing, have you thought about that?
Right.
And so that's how I got started on the path. And I started researching. I read the blood type diet, and I'm blood type A, so it talks about how you really shouldn't be eating a lot of meat. And then I started reading about how our meat is raised in this country.
Right.
And I thought, that's really kind of scary and gross. And so protein and my body and what it needs and what it doesn't need. And then I just started experimenting on myself. Nowadays, I didn't know this back then, but it's called an elimination diet. And so basically that's what I did. I just didn't know that's what I was doing. When the book, The Whole30 came out, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
But when that book came out, I was like, I could have written this. Oh my gosh. Just more for plant-based. They're, no grains, whatever. But I was like, I could have written this for plant-based people, because that's what I did. I adopted a plant-based lifestyle, and I cut out all meat, all dairy, which was really hard to do. I was raised on meat and potatoes, but had to relearn how to cook. I've always loved cooking, but I didn't know how to cook just vegetables and grains and beans and really enjoy a meal.
Yeah.
So that was a process, but it took me a long time, and I think that's what inspired what I'm doing now, because it was very frustrating.
Yeah.
And so I just have this desire to see people well who maybe don't have the time or the energy to invest in all of those years of research, so that they can get themselves to that place.
There's definitely a move forward to elimination diets. I was just listening to a podcast by Rob Wolf. Are you familiar with Rob Wolf? Yeah, he was talking.
Yes.
Yeah, he was talking about the autoimmune protocol diet. It's called AIP. So I mean that's it's very extreme, and you're eliminating a lot of things from your diet. And I know I understand that's really hard to do, and you have to have a totally, I guess, a different mindset. And I guess if someone who is in pain, you would want to try something different, right? Especially if you've heard that it has made other people feel better. You want to try it and experiment with it and see how it would affect your body. So once you started making these changes, how long did it take?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think is.
Oh, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Sorry. I think my connection is a little slow. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, it's okay. Go ahead.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I thought I cut out. I was like, oh no, I lost you. I was just going to say, I think that's another reason that I love this holistic part of my practice. And that's why I say that what I do with clients is I teach them how to listen are saying, because there is so much contradicting research out there, and everyone is so completely different. I have a sister, same two parents, same DNA, everything. She was also diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when she was 26, but she's 10 years younger than me, so there was 10 years between us. And I got better on a plant-based diet. She got better using AIP. Oh. And so you really have to be in tune with what it is that you need, because what works for someone else might not work for you. And it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean that you're not really sticking to the program. It just means that's not the right plan for you.
Yeah, exactly. So how long did it take for you to notice changes, like when you finally started feeling a lot better?
I think that I was thinking about that earlier today and trying to really remember. I wish I had done a better job of keeping a journal or something like that. Uh-oh.
I can hear you.
Am I interrupting you? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. I don't know what's happening. It took me, it was very gradual, I think. The first thing that I noticed was my energy and being able to do more and not have like these, 3-day periods where it was like burst of energy. Oh, I'm feeling better. And then, I used to do all of these things on days that I felt better. And then because I did so much, I have like my crash and burn weeks where, okay, I did a lot of things for 3 days because I was playing catch up and I wanted to do things or have fun or whatever. And then I would have a week where I was either really sick or just was in pain or couldn't move. After starting on my healing journey, I started to notice that the energy was just staying. I didn't have any more of the crash and burn days or weeks or any of those moments. At least they were, fewer and farther in between. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first thing. And I think that was probably about 6 months in. And then I want to say it was about a year later that, because I kind of gradually phased myself off of the medication. Right. I didn't have a coach, I didn't have a doctor, I didn't have an accountability partner helping me through any of this. And I was scared to tell my doctor, I'm going to stop taking this because of everything that they had told me to be wary of.
Right.
And so I just kind of weaned myself off of a lot of different things. And it was about a year. And I remember the one day that I woke up in the morning and I jumped up. I don't remember what I was running late for something. And I never used to plan anything for the mornings because I knew how tired and in pain I was. But I jumped up and I was getting ready and in the shower and makeup, all those things. And I realized when I was doing that I didn't have to spend extra time with my hands under the hot water. When I got out of bed, I ran to the bathroom. I was doing things with my hands without having to really pay attention to it, and nothing was hurting. Okay. And that was, I just can't explain how freeing that feels.
Sure, after years of, pain and gosh, I can't imagine, all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, oh, there's nothing. Which is kind of an odd feeling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I want to go back to when you decided to do the elimination. How long was that process, and what was your mindset? What were you thinking, and did you have your family support? Because I mean, did your family eat something totally different, or?
Yeah, that's why I had to learn this whole, because my family was very supportive, but that didn't mean they were going to eat the same thing as me. So I meet a lot of women who have that struggle, and I understand it well. Yeah. And they're, my husband was good. He would eat a lot of the same things, but he's a big guy. He's 6'3", 200 whatever pounds. Right. And so he needs his meat. He needs his animal protein. And my kids were little, and so they still wanted, their chicken and all, and they still do. They're like, no, we're never giving up meat. And I eat it again now as well. But back then what I did was I recreated a lot of our meals to where the focus was on the plants. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't I used to structure our meals around like, we're going to have steak and then we'll have a baked potato and salad on the side or whatever. But I switched it around to where I was like, what kind of vegetable plant-based dish can I make? And then what kind of meat would go with that? And so I just had to rethink what I was doing in the kitchen so that everyone was happy.
Yeah. Wow.
Because I wasn't going to cook 2 days. I've never been that kind of mom. Like, I'll make this for you and that. No, you're going to eat what I cooked you.
So you started focusing more on, were you eat like beforehand? What was your diet like? What was the type of food you ate before? Were there a lot before you went plant-based? Is it just the meat that you took out or other things?
Oh, our nutrition had gotten better. I do have to say that, because I'll never forget when I was in nursing school in my young, teens and 20s, I would, on my way to school every day, eat 2 honey buns that I heated up inside the plastic in the microwave and drink.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
It had gotten better because when my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 2, which is also an autoimmune disease and something that children get, I was really having to learn about carbohydrates and how to dose insulin and learning how to cook things in a healthier way. So we got away from a lot of processed foods and fried foods and chicken fried egg and all those kinds of things. So we were eating healthier than we had when I was younger. But when I made that lifestyle change and went plant-based, it drastically changed everything. Like, I think vegetables growing up, and then even in my early parts of my marriage, it was corn, potatoes, I had salad, carrots. I just didn't cook with vegetables. And so learning how to make a butternut squash or a spaghetti squash or, any of the leeks. I'm trying to think of all the eggplant, just different things. I never had cooked for, and they're delicious, and I never knew it.
Right. Wait. Okay. Tracy is watching. Hey, Tracy. She said that we lost the sound on you for, I guess, maybe a few minutes, but now she said it's back. So can you hear us better, Tracy? Just let us know if we're still broken. But
Uh-oh, did it cut out?
It cut out for a little bit, but then she said it's back. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, yeah. I know. I can totally. Understand like the having to, try to please your family as well, and kind of. Well, I'm sure they understand, what you're going through. So that, but they, of course, they don't want to make the drastic change. But it's great that you were able to find a way to meet the needs of your family as well, and yourself, which is probably the most important.
Right. Yeah, I wanted everybody to be happy. And I couldn't blame them. I really wasn't excited about making all of those changes at that point, but I had been in so much pain that it was the only thing that I could see to do.
Right. Did you make any other changes besides the nutrition part, or like sleep, or like handling stress?
So 2 of the other biggest changes that I made, which people are sometimes like, really? One of the big ones, I think, was I really had to learn how to forgive people, even for small things.
Right.
And I feel like that's a really important thing to bring up because it was so huge in my healing journey. Is I carried a lot of stress and anxiety around because of things that other people were doing that they didn't even know that they were doing. I had always been a very sensitive person, and anybody who knows me will tell you that. I used to just always be crying at the drop of anything. And so I had to learn, to just let things go and to not hold things against people and just to release that, because it was I mean, I think it was literally eating me up in my joints. And so that was a huge major piece, was forgiveness and letting go of bitterness, and then just not taking everything in life so personally. It's not all about me. And then really at that same time, and kind of along those same lines, was establishing good boundaries and learning to say no, whether it was to people for, you know, I can't think of any examples, but just, do you want to bake 6 dozen cookies for Tommy's party that's tomorrow? And no, I don't. I'm not going to feel guilty about it, because no. And so I've talked to a lot of women about that, and they're like, but what do you say? But what's your reason? And I'm like, why do we have to give a reason? I feel like that's a really big thing with women, and it's so hard to help them get that, like, we don't have to do things just because people want us to. If it doesn't fit in with our day or with our lives or with our purpose or our plans, then it's okay to say no to people. There's somebody else who will say yes, and that leaves you room to say yes to your That was huge for me in my transformation as well.
Oh gosh, it's so important. And the one thing about the forgiveness part, about being able to forgive, and gosh, I totally agree with you. I can totally relate with that too, because I'm a sensitive person, and I would usually, before, I guess, I think I've improved now, but I do take things personally, and it's, it's like, I'm old. It's like, I'm 40 years old. I was like, why should I even, that's not like to say, oh, I shouldn't even care or whatever, but just having that forgiveness, like forgiving myself and forgiving others, and not taking it so personally that it ends up hurting me and stressing out so much about it, and it just, makes your body feel horrible. Right. So, yeah. My mom. Yeah. Like, I used to really, like, get close to panic attack level, like rehearsing what I was going to say the next time I saw that person in my mind. Like, it was just so, like, emotionally draining, and physically, like, I could feel my heart starting to race or whatever. And it could just be something so silly. That other person probably isn't even thinking about it. They forgot. So being free of that was really big. And then one last thing I want to say about that is that a big piece of it too was that I just believed that I was going to get better. And I love that, I read about that in scripture, but then also there are books in science that have proven that what we believe in our mind really level, and they give people placebos, and those people think that they're taking the medicine and they get well. And I just think that's the coolest thing, because that's one thing that I was like, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna try everything. I don't care how long it takes. I'm not living like this. I'm going to get better. Yes, and oh my gosh, it's so true. Just you believing in yourself, in the process, and never giving up on it, and having faith in, like, being a Christian, having faith in God, and making just having that path, like knowing that everything will hopefully go in the right direction. But just believing in it, it's a powerful thing to do. Yes. A big part of my practice, because if you don't have hope, I can't help you. And I can help you find hope. Right. But if you just want to be negative and I've already tried this and this and nothing is going to work, well, we got to find the hope before we can do anything else. Because if you don't hope and believe in your own path to healing, then you're not going to get better. I just don't believe that it will happen. No matter what kind of food you eat or restrict or whatever, you have to believe that you're. That's also important. So let's talk about how you got into the practice that you are in now as a holistic health coach. Okay. I'm assuming that you went towards that path because of how you were healed, in the manner that you were healed. So if you want to tell us how you got into the IIN and Absolutely, yeah. So I actually started coaching to health about 6 years ago. So around the time that I myself was getting better, friends and family and different people were noticing
well, they knew what was happening because they saw me before, and then they saw me better, and it was two totally different people. And so they started asking me for help, and so I started helping them because why not? I got better, and I want other people to get better. So it was about, I guess it was maybe 2 years ago, I was talking with a woman who was a nurse, and she had some health issues going on. And so we were talking about different things. And this is just one of my daughter's, friends. It was her mom. And so we're just at a coffee shop, and she was telling me some things. And I was like, well, have you thought about this? Have you considered this? Have you asked the doctor about that? What they teach us in school is you just ask a lot of questions so that you can figure out how you can help that person. And so I was doing this. I was just drawing a lot of things. She looked at me and she said, are you a nurse? And I said, no. She said, are you a doctor? No. And she goes, well, how do you know all this stuff? And I said, oh my gosh, it's kind of a long story. I've been on this really long journey. And, and so I told her a little bit about our story and different people that I'd helped or whatever. And she said, why haven't you made a career out of this? And so I kind of thought to myself, I never thought about making a career out of this. I just love helping people. And she was like, you should do this, like this. And so that's what made me start looking into different schools and figuring out what their programs taught, because I have the highest respect for nurses and nutritionists and dietitians and all of that. But I didn't want to go to a program that was going to the same plan for everyone because of what happened with me and my sister. I knew that it couldn't be that way. I knew that I had to go through a program that was going to teach me to treat each person as an individual and how to help them individually. And so that's why I chose the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and that's why I love what I do in my practice, because I can have two clients come to me with very similar, different protocols to get well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I didn't even think about how, I guess, like the nutritionists and like registered dietitians. I mean, I guess they have their protocol of what to. I can't even find the term for it. Like what to write up as a meal plan, or depending on what symptoms or what condition you have. But I don't know if they really even try to really consider, how it would impact you, like as a whole. And now we have. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we see one every year because my son has type 1 diabetes, and that's just part of his regular thing is he has to go see the nutritionist. They laugh when they see me coming because they know I'm not going to follow anything they tell us to do, because like I laughed when I got they gave him like a little guide a couple weeks ago when we had his appointment, and it was basically, okay, let's practice counting carbs and figure out how much insulin you're going to take. And the meal was chicken, mashed potatoes, corn, salad with light ranch, with sweet and low, and sugar-free Jell-O pudding. And I was like, there are a lot of things on that list that would never be in my kitchen. So, and I understand why they do it, because I work a lot with people in the type 2 community, and there are a lot of people who they don't want to change their diet. They don't want to change their lifestyle. And so that's the only way that they're going to stay a little bit healthier is by following that type of protocol. But it's not the way for everyone. So I do respect their work, and I know that they have their governing authority, but I knew it's not the way that I wanted to help people.
Yeah. So now you have your own practice, and what type of people do you usually, like what type of clients do you have? Is it directed towards women, or does it men and women, children?
Yeah, so I have mostly helped women. So I don't really have I guess my target is women between 20 and 60-ish. Oh, I think I have one client that's a little bit older than 60. Women in general. I have helped one male client, and then other people who aren't like paid clients, but they're men who I've worked with on different things. And it's women. A lot of them have come to me with autoimmune conditions. A lot of people get referred to me because of diabetes or being pre-diabetic or having issues with their blood sugar or hormones, and both of those things. I have a ton of experience with, both personally and with my son, and also, of course, my training. So my favorite clients to work with are people or people who already have experienced that and want to get their blood sugars down. In fact, one of my clients just a few months ago, I finished a program with him, and he was a man in his 60s, and he needed to have knee surgery really badly. He's walking with a cane in a lot of pain, but he wasn't a candidate for knee surgery because his blood sugar was really out of control. I don't know if you really out of control. And so he came to me, we started working together, and in 4 months, he got clearance for his knee surgery because we got his blood sugar down into an almost like person without diabetes level needs to be. And he was in tears, and it was the most rewarding thing. I love his story. It's one of my favorites.
That's so amazing. And it's interesting that you've mentioned A1C, because that was, and you know what, you asked me that question yesterday when we were talking as to why I started the show, and it's because part of it was that I was, my A1C level was like, it was borderline pre-diabetic, and I made some changes too in my nutrition, and that's what helped me with just lowering the glucose levels. And so, and so that gave
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So that gave me an idea on to like, well, if I, I'm just one story, and I want to go ahead and see if there are other stories out there who's made, this lifestyle changes and has affected their health in one way or the other, and just share that, and the other people hopefully would listen to it and see like there's a different route that you can take that doesn't necessarily have to involve medications, or I mean, if you have to go that route, okay, but you can also do something else besides just, staying where you are now.
Yeah, and I think that's what helps me come with a unique perspective as well, because, here I am, and I've had my healing journey, and I'm not taking medications anymore. But then I have my 2 children who are also dealing with autoimmune issues. My son is on an insulin pump, and no matter how well we feed him, or even if he ate no food, he would still need insulin. I've seen it happen when he's had a stomach virus or what. You have to have insulin if your pancreas isn't making any. So we still see doctors, we still use medicine when it's absolutely necessary, but we do everything in our power to avoid the things that we absolutely don't need.
Yeah, definitely. So we've been talking for about 42 minutes, and I want to respect your time. So it's been, you're just amazing. I want to read some of the comments. My mom was, not sure if she's still here. I don't see any other viewers. So my mom said that you're amazing, and then she said something about when you said, just having the power to say no. She said sometimes you just have to say no. And then she also mentioned good words of inspiration, believe you will get better, and you will. Determination and positive outlook helps a lot as well. So thanks, Mom, for tuning in. I appreciate it, and thank you to Tracy if you're still here. I'm not sure. I can't tell. Anyway, so I just have one more question for you, and if this is and then you probably have covered this already, but to those who are, there's still out, like you said, there's still people out there who are contemplating change, or kind of like on the fence, like, is this something that I really want to do? What would be your advice to them?
I would say, number one, don't worry about what anyone around you is doing, because the only person who's going to ever take care of you is you, and so you need to take care of you. And secondly, don't ever stop believing that you can get better. I don't care what the doctors say. I don't care how you feel. It's possible. There's always hope. You just have to believe in that and just keep going.
Perfect. Yeah, I definitely love that, the belief, that philosophy behind belief it's very important.
For sure.
So thank you so much, Daphne, for hanging out with me on a Friday. And
I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, definitely. If people would like to get a hold of you, I think I have it in the show notes, but if you want to go ahead and just tell us where we can find you.
Sure, you can find me at my website. It's daphnewiswell.com. It's kind of a weird name. I know that's hard to spell, but it's DAFNEWISWELL. I think I'm the only one on Facebook or Instagram or any of those places. And so you can just search my name in whatever your favorite platform is, and you'll find me there.
Okay, great. Perfect. Well, have a happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
And to the viewers, thank you again for hanging out with us. And this is the final episode for 2017, but I'm excited for 2018. I already have a few people lined up for an interview. And if you or someone you know have gone through a health transformation, we'd just love to share your story. Please contact me as well. Just send me a message. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.